It's 3 after the hour, so I think we will get started. Thank you all so much for joining us today. If anyone else files in here, feel free to continue saying hi in the chat and saying where you're from and which organization you're with. My name is Colin Konopshwin. I am a member support specialist with Crossref. I am going to be leading today's webinar on metadata health check, specifically looking at OJS. We also have with us here Paul, who is currently a product manager with Crossref. Paul was previously also on our technical support team. So if you've ever emailed Crossref for either membership problems, you may have talked to me, or for technical problems, you may have talked to Paul in the past.
Hi, everyone.
Cool beans. A couple quick things to note before we get started here. I'm sure this is not anyone's first time on Zoom, but if it is, I just want to highlight a couple things to look at here. The chat, most of you have already found. Feel free to use the chat to discuss things. If you have any questions, we encourage you to use specifically the Q&A feature over here on the right side. It's going to be easier for us to keep track of your questions if you specifically ask questions in that Q&A feature. Paul will also be posting links in the chat to various things I reference on screen. We also have the react function, of course, if you want to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you really dislike what I'm saying. And there's also a captions function as well. So you can, I believe they're auto-generated captions in English. There may also be the option to automatically translate to another language. I'm not sure how good it is, but if English is not your preferred language, feel free to try that. I see someone has raised their hand there. If you do have a question, just pop it in the Q&A and we will take a look at it. So today we are in the welcome right now. We are going to talk a little bit about metadata, what it is, why it's important. We are then going to look at the participation reports tool, which is a tool that Crossref offers to help you, our members, take a look at how you're doing in terms of sending different metadata elements to us. We'll also then take a look at OJS version 3.3 and OJS versions 3.4 and 3.5 and how you can use these to send these specific metadata elements to Crossref. And then we're going to try to take about half of today's time to just practice and ask questions. So I am going to do my best to take about half an hour here and not more than that for the actual presentation portion of this. A couple quick assumptions that I have about you who are here today. We're assuming in this webinar that you already have a basic sense of what DOIs are and kind of what they can do for you. We are assuming that you are already using or perhaps are soon planning to use OJS to register DOIs for your articles. And I'm specifically going to be talking about articles in this webinar because OJS as a platform is geared towards supporting articles rather than books or reports or chapters or anything like that. Of course, the general guidance about metadata is the same, but it's not going to be the same specifically for other content types related to OJS, which is journal specific. And then we are also assuming that if you are already using OJS, that you've already set up, connected your DOI prefix with OJS and are able at least to send basic metadata through OJS to Crossref. So we're not going to be going through in this presentation, at least in the first part, how to set up the basic Crossref plugin. But if you have any questions about that, Paul will be able to provide some links to our guidance on our website for how to get that set up, and we may have a little time for that in the second portion of this presentation. I also want to add one final caveat. We love OJS at Crossref, but OJS is not a Crossref product. It is the product of Public Knowledge Project, also called PKP. They do incredible work. It's a great system. It's a great system for sending tons of rich metadata to us at Crossref. But there are things that we are just not going to know today because it's not our product. And so Paul and I will try to direct you to the right place if we don't know the answer to a question. PKP has a ton of resources in addition to what we're going to share with you today that may be useful to you. Paul, I'm mostly not going to be looking at the Zoom screen here. So if feel free to stop me if anyone has any really pertinent questions during this portion of the presentation.
Thank you.
Okie doke. I mentioned metadata. What is it? Why is it important? Why should you care? So I'm sure you all know about DOIs right now. DOIs are a combination of a prefix, which is this blue portion here, 10.5555. Every member has their own DOI prefix, and then a DOI suffix of your choosing. That's the yellow or golden portion here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But by itself, this doesn't tell you anything. You can't look at this DOI and say, oh, that's article that's this article by these authors, unless you happen to have memorized 175 million different items in our catalog, which I suspect you haven't. Because the DOI by itself is just the tip of the iceberg. And what's underneath the water is all of the metadata that you, our members, send to us. This is basic things, of course, article titles, authors, the URL where the article's landing page is, of course. It also includes other richer metadata fields, author affiliations and RoarIDs, author ORCID IDs, relational metadata like the reference lists, or metadata showing that an article is a translation of another article, updates, retraction information, similarity check URLs. These are all different metadata fields that you can send to us and that we love when you send to us, because the richer the metadata that you can send us, the more value both you and the larger community are going to get out of your Crossref metadata. So we have this tool called Participation Reports, crossref.org/members/prep or prep, I guess. Paul will drop the link in the chat. If you visited our participation reports before, you may notice that they look a little different. We recently revamped them to add a couple of new features. What these are an open tool that allows you to see your own metadata and how it scores on a couple of different categories. You can also see any other Crossref members' metadata and how it scores in a variety of categories. So for example, here we have Elsevier's participation report. We're looking specifically at all of their 22 million journal articles. I think Elsevier is maybe our most prolific member in terms of the number of DOIs. So you can see here that for Elsevier's journal articles, 72% of them, they've sent their reference metadata to us. That doesn't necessarily mean that only 72% of their journal articles have references. It only means that for about, 28% of them, they haven't sent any reference metadata to us. They sent us 0% of their abstracts. I'm sure many of their articles have abstracts, but they haven't sent any of those abstracts to us. 12% of their metadata records, their DOI records, have ORCID IDs attached, and so on and so forth. They've done a really good job, for instance, sending license URLs to us. Almost 100% of their DOIs have a metadata field showing what the license URL is. Feel free to take a peek over at this right now if you'd like. You can also select in this box, you can switch between current articles or current content. That's things published in the present or past 2 years. You can also look at back file content if you like. That's things published 3+ years ago. And you can also look at different journals. So if you're interested in one particular journal and how it is scoring, you can search by journal as well. We also have this fun new feature as of about a month and a half ago. That's the gap report up there at the top of the page. So if you specifically want to find all of your DOIs that you haven't yet sent us reference metadata for, you can do that by clicking that download gap report button up there at the top, and then selecting which of these fields you want to see where you have those metadata gaps for, and it'll send you you'll be able to download a CSV with all of those DOIs attached there. And so today we are actually going to look specifically at how you can automatically send some of that information to us automatically via plugins through the OJS platform. Let's take a look at it. Let's get into it. I want to note that we are going to be looking at these 3 different OJS versions today. Version 3.3, 3.4, and 3.5. The versions work a little bit differently. So when there is a difference between versions, I'll try to note that. And we do recommend that you upgrade that you work on at least version 3.3 right now. I believe 3.5 is the next version that's going to be that PKP is going to be providing long-term support for. Um, I don't think that that's happened yet. I believe that's on the table really soon, though. So if you are considering making the upgrade, I know that PKP has made it significantly easier to upgrade from version to version after 3.3. Um, and we recommend, if you are looking to upgrade, to wait till 3.5 is in this long-term support relationship, and then upgrading to 3.5. I have a poll here. Let me see if I can figure out how to do polls in Zoom here. Here we go, launching the poll. Let's see if this works. So we're curious which version of OJS folks in the chat are using, and if you are already sending DOIs to us. Because if everyone's using 3.5, then I won't talk about 3.3 or vice versa. I think this isn't going to show up in the recording, so I'll just say aloud that about half of you look like you're using 3.3. A smaller percentage are using 3.4. A couple folks are using 3.5. A couple folks are using an earlier version. And a couple folks aren't sure which version you're using. Um, I know there's other ways to find out the answer to which version you're using if you're not sure. But if you, for me, it's oftentimes the easiest way is just to go to your journal homepage, your OJS homepage, and then on a Mac, if you hit Command U to look at the source code, it says it right in one of the top lines. I think that's Control U on a Windows computer. Um, it'll say OJS 3.3, 3.4, 3.5 right in one of those first lines of the source code there. So that's a pretty easy way to find that out. And then most of you are already depositing DOIs and metadata with us. That's fantastic news. Cool. I'm going to end the poll now. Thank you for your answers on that. What happens if I do this? Just sharing the results with you. Great. Okay, cool. So let's look at how to do this. We're going to specifically be talking about how to set up your OJS instances so that for new articles or new articles you publish in the future or anything you digitize for the first time and bring into OJS for the first time, that those articles include this richer metadata. You can also use these plugins that I'm going to talk about to update metadata for existing articles, articles that are already published on your OJS platform. But to do this, you're going to have to go in and temporarily unpublish the articles, add the missing metadata elements that you want to add, save, and then repush those DOI deposits, which I will talk briefly about how to do. And then I'll also note that if you go in and add references for all your articles, it's not going to show up immediately on your participation report. There's a lag of about 24 hours there between when you update a metadata element, add a metadata element, and when it shows up in your participation report there. Sorry for anyone who really loves instant gratification. It's going to be about 24-hour gratification. As I mentioned, if you want to edit any of your articles, you can go in with these plugins and make these changes. And then you're just going to need to go into the Crossref XML export plugin. You're going to select any articles that you've made any sort of metadata changes to in here, tick the boxes, and then at the bottom of this page is a deposit button. You'll click that to resubmit the metadata for the DOIs to Crossref. If you make these changes, that metadata isn't automatically sent out to us. You have to manually force OJS to send it to us. This is how you do it in OJS 3.3. It's a little different in 3.4 and 3.5, but otherwise pretty similar. As if you're a journal manager, you go to the DOIs in the sidebar, find the articles that you've made any changes to, select them, and then click bulk actions and deposit DOIs. That'll send the updated metadata over to us, over to Crossref. I believe in 3.6 and future versions, PKP is looking at doing what they call on-the-fly submissions, where if you make these changes, that's going to automatically push to us, but that is not currently a feature that any OJS version has. Okay, we're finally to the meat of the presentation. Thanks for sticking with me for all of the preamble there. So references is the first field we're going to look at. I think it's the first field in the participation reports. If you're interested in improving your references score, if you're interested in submitting more reference metadata to Crossref, this is a super important thing to do because this is how we know that articles are being cited. You are going to head to workflow, to submission, to metadata, and then to references. This is going to let you tick this box that allows you to ask the author to provide references during submission. Of course, the articles you've already published, if you've already published articles, are almost certainly going to have references already with them, but they may not be in the specific reference field, which I'll show you here. So for references to be sent to Crossref, they need to each be on a new line in this field here. When authors, after you've enabled this feature in any of the OJS versions, authors will be able to paste their reference lists right into this, and that'll come into you automatically with their submissions. That's going to save you a lot of work. And what this does is when these references come to us, our system checks them and tries to find if the articles or books or whatever that the article is citing have DOIs, and then it matches them, it connects them, and that creates a cited by relationship. If you've ever seen a plugin somewhere, that's the little Crossref cited by plugin that says an article is cited by 10 other articles. It's this kind of submitting the references to us. That is how our system knows that there is a link from one article to another article, a cited by relationship. Again, you can also enable this feature, which again is built into the OJS instances, and then manually do this yourself if you are a journal manager, if you have journal manager permissions. There is an additional Crossref reference linking plugin, which allows you to enable automatic extraction of DOIs from the reference list. So if you send us just a list of DOIs like this, our system will internally try to match DOIs, but you can also have a public-facing reference list on your article landing pages. And what this Crossref reference linking plugin does is it finds those DOIs and then it puts them into this reference list, like you can see on the right side of the screen here, so that folks can click through and so that folks can view the reference list right on that landing page. The next field we're going to be taking a quick look at here is abstracts. Again, this is built into all versions of OJS 3.3, 3.4, 3.5. You can make sure that your authors are submitting abstracts as a separate text field here. And you can also add in abstracts or extract out abstracts from existing published articles and put them in this abstract field that's in publication in the title and abstract section. There's no plugin needed for this one. It's fairly straightforward to add the abstracts in to each published work. Author metadata. So there's three relevant fields here: ORCID IDs, which are persistent identifiers for authors. Super useful if authors publish under different names, change their names for gender or marriage-related reasons, or just if sometimes you're publishing under just your first initial, or if maybe you're sometimes publishing in English language journals and sometimes publishing with your name in a Chinese language journal, for example. ORCID IDs are super helpful. They're a single identifier for you as an author. You can take a look at each of your contributors in the publication contributors section here. And there's a field for ORCID IDs that either the authors themselves or you as a journal manager can add in. Super helpful. There is also an additional ORCID profile plugin that you can add. What this does is that when a new article is published with an ORCID ID attached to it, that ORCID ID is sent to Crossref as part of the metadata deposit, and then the author's ORCID profile gets a ping to say that a new article has been published, and they can, in one click, add that article to their ORCID profile that authenticates that the author is who they say they are, and that in turn will show these little ORCID ID logos next to the author's names in your list of authors on your article landing pages. So that again is the ORCID profile plugin, but you don't need this plugin to send ORCID IDs to us. It's just if you want to display the little ORCID ID logos and authenticate those ORCID IDs. Affiliation. Affiliation and RoarID kind of go hand in hand. I'll talk a little bit about each here. Affiliation is an existing field. All versions of OJS, version 3 point anything, have an affiliation field, which is just a plain text field. Specifically in OJS 3.4, it's hidden behind this more user details button in the author metadata section for each author. Affiliation, the affiliation field can just be plain text. So it might be Department of Chemistry, University of Santiago in Santiago, Chile, for example. We also have RoarIDs. RoarIDs are a persistent identifier for institutions. So Crossref has a RoarID, the University of Santiago has a RoarID, Simon Fraser University has a RoarID, funders, private companies, kind of any organization that's involved kind of at any stage in the research production process is eligible for a RoarID generally. And these are super helpful for down the line disambiguating when there may be universities, for instance, that have author affiliations. And in some papers, authors will say that they are with the University of Santiago, or in another paper, they may say they're with the Universidad de Santiago. And so having the RoarID attached to each of those affiliations for that same university helps systems know that the University of Santiago is the same as the Universidad de Santiago, and it allows better tracking for those institutions. It helps them pick out, better understand the research outputs of the authors that they're funding. So we have this Roar plugin here, which you can choose to install, that displays this little RoarID logo next to it collects the RoarIDs from authors as they submit their articles, and then it displays the little RoarID logo next to their names, next to their affiliations in the landing page, article landing page. An important caveat here about versions. OJS 3.3 and 3.4, while you can collect RoarIDs, there's a technical limitation that prevents you from sending those RoarIDs to Crossref. So if you're specifically interested in increasing your RoarID score via OJS, you're unfortunately not going to be able to do that with OJS versions 3.3 and 3.4. You can still install this plugin, you can still display RoarIDs, but that information is not going to get to Crossref via the automatic deposits. You will need to upgrade to 3.5 if you want to actually be able to send RoarIDs to us at Crossref. So hopefully folks will upgrade to 3.5 at some point soon, and hopefully you will be able to start sending those RoarIDs to us. And this is just a quick screen to show you how this looks. Again, this is in OJS 3.5 within the list of contributors field, within each contributor profile, there's an affiliation space. You can type the name of the affiliation, the university or the company or whatever the case may be, into this type the institute name in English box. don't think it has to be in English. I think you can actually type it in any language that the organization uses. And then it will match it to the RoarID, and then it will output it on the landing page and also send that information to Crossref. Super helpful. Funding metadata. This can be found in publication funding data. There's also a funding meta. You'll need to install the funding metadata plugin first, but then you'll be able to find this new funding data tab within the publication field for any given article. You can add a funder this way. Funder registry IDs are something, they're similar, they're persistent identifiers, kind of similar to RoarIDs, but they're funder specific. At some point in the future, we're going to be working on phasing out funder registry IDs in favor of RoarIDs. Right now, funder registry IDs are the primary way that folks tell us that a work was funded by a certain funder, be it a private institution, a government institution, whatever the case may be. So you can add this information by installing the funding metadata plugin, and then you'll be able to click on Add Funder. You can add the funder name and identification. Um, Identification being the funder registry ID. You can also include grant numbers. So this might be an internal grant number provided by, say, a government institution. Some funders are also themselves members of Crossref and so are able to register what do we call them? Grant IDs, which are essentially DOIs for grants. So you can include either type, either a grant ID or just an internal grant number to this funder data box here, and that will get sent off to Crossref, and that will improve your funding award number score. Okay, this is this is the end of the scheduled programming. We made it right to the half past the hour here, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So I would love to start looking at questions, which I see probably we've got some here. Again, you'll want to take a look at your participation report. That's crossref.org/members/prep as a starting place. And yeah, let's take a look at some questions here. Paul, what have we got?
There's a few that I'm trying to answer whilst
Anything
typing, but
anything we want to do verbally here?
I think Elena said that we've just answered that one at the top, I believe. I think Tori was next, so that might be a good one to step up next. I'm just trying to message Bashir back as well.
Fantastic. And there's one slide that wasn't included here, but that I do actually want to really quickly bring back. Hold on one second. Okay, this one and this one. Here we go. Okay, so I've talked a lot about plugins in this, and I should have said a little bit more about where you find the plugins as well. This is OJS version 3.3. You can find plugins in the administration section on the left-hand side, in the plugins tab on the top there, and then there is the plugin gallery of available plugins, and all or most of these plugins should be available in this large plugin gallery for you to install fairly easily on your OJS instance. And then in this is, I think, 3.4 and 3.5. The plugins are in a slightly different place. They'll be in the website tab on the left side there, plugins, and again in plugin gallery. I'm going to pop these links here up. So again, as we go through and answer some more questions here, there are going to be things Paul and I don't know. PKP has really good documentation at this second link here. PKP also has a super active forum that you can search for to see if your question has already been asked, um, or you can ask your question if no one else has asked it before. Uh, if you have any sort of questions specific to DOIs and to Crossref, we have great documentation on our website on that first link. We also have a pretty active forum, community.crossref.org, that is going to be a super resource if you're running into problems as you're working through this. We love when our questions from our members can be out in the open so that other members can benefit from them. Just going to open the Q&A here. So Elena's question here, 3.3, the 3.3 OJS version 3.3 plugin doesn't export author affiliations among the metadata. You can input this information, and I think if you upgrade to a later version 3.5, you'll be able that information will get ported over to the new version, and then you'll be able to export it. But in 3.3 and 3.4, the author affiliation metadata, including ROAR metadata, isn't actually able to be sent to Crossref. That's a known issue, and it's again fixed in 3.5, but not something that's fixed in 3.3 or 4. Let's see. How do we handle language translations? Tori asks. For example, if we have an article format in Spanish or another language besides the English PDF, where can we add the Spanish language abstract for pickup by aggregators? Do you have any idea about this, Paul?
I don't, not in OJS, I don't. We do allow multiple abstracts within our metadata. So you can have an abstract in Spanish and in English in the metadata, but I'm not sure about where that goes in OJS.
So that would be a good question, Tori, for the PKP community forum, the link for which is on screen there.
I've also popped them in the chat as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, better than probably trying to type long URLs in.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mark, you asked again about ROAR being only possible via OJS 3.5. Yep, that's correct. ROAR, again, you can display it. You can include it on your landing pages in 3.3 and 3.4, but again, it'll only be able to be sent to Crossref in 3.5. Pep writes, ORCID IDs must be completed by the authors themselves, validating with their ORCID password. Editors cannot do it. Yeah, thank you for the clarification on that. How do the participation reports work? Camille asks. Do we search for the name of the journal or something else? We tried it with our own journal and we uh, could not see. Oh, there we go. Sorry, we could not find it. Yeah. So on that first page of the participation reports, you are going to search for your membership name. So that might be whatever, whoever the owner of the prefix you register it with is. That'll bring up the page, the sort of splash landing page with the participation report for all of that member's details. That might be a university press, it might be a commercial publisher, it might be a society, whatever your membership is. And then from there, you can search in the journal field and narrow it down by a specific journal. Some members don't have a parent publisher, so it's possible that your membership is in the name of your journal, but if you aren't finding it there, um, it's probably because it's in the name of your membership. If you don't know the name of your membership offhand, feel free to pop in as a reply to your question there. Feel free to pop in your DOI prefix, and we can take a look and let you know what your membership name is. Crossref cited by doesn't work for us, but we can see the citations via Scopus. Any idea why? This is version 3.3. Any clue, Paul?
I'm not sure how Scopus get that
Scopus is
information.
Scopus is are Scopus using our metadata? I can't recall.
No, I can't recall that. I think they probably are, but they might also be using some of their
Yeah, it's true
own.
that different aggregators do or don't or use Crossref metadata differently. We know, for example, that Google Scholar doesn't use Crossref metadata. Um, Having your articles via available via OJS, via a properly configured OJS instance, makes your articles a lot more likely to be picked up by Google Scholar, for example, but not because of Crossref.
Yeah, there could be a number of reasons. That probably sounds like something that support might be able to investigate, because there might be some factors to why the cited by isn't working.
So yes, Sandra, if you want to get in contact with us specifically with our support team, we are happy to take a look at your specific case and try to get to the bottom of that. You can always shoot an email to support@crossref.org. Let's pop that in the chat here. You can always feel free to shoot us a message at that email address, and our technical support team will be happy to investigate further your specific case. Oh, this is a great question from an anonymous attendee. Does a journal have to have an ISSN to register DOIs via OJS? The answer to that one is yes, you do. Um, so if you are a brand new journal, our recommendation is that you wait until you have been assigned an ISSN before you begin using OJS to register DOIs for your articles. And in practice, what that means is that, for example, your first volume or two volumes, however many volumes you publish before being assigned an ISSN, won't immediately have DOIs. But then, as soon as you have an ISSN assigned, you can add that into your OJS instance. There's an ISSN field in there in one of the journal setup tabs. And then you can go back and retroactively register DOIs for any articles in those first couple volumes that didn't have DOIs immediately. There is another manual workaround that you can do if for some reason you absolutely must have DOIs before being assigned an ISSN, but that's going to involve using one of Crossref's other helper tools, our web deposit form, um, to register DOIs with a journal level DOI as a title level identifier in place of an ISSN. We really don't recommend doing this if you can help it. Um, but if you must do that, it is possible. Okay, let's see. So follow up on the ISSN question. Why? I'm actually not sure why. This was a choice that PKP made. Uh, it's not true that authors are going to lose a whole year of citations, though. When an article is submitted to us with as part of the citing metadata for another article. So if Article A cites Article B and Article B at the time of publication doesn't have a DOI, that unstructured citation is going to go sit in our database. And what our systems do is periodically check back through all of those citations that don't have a DOI attached to them yet, and they research to see whether a DOI has been assigned for an article yet. So this happens periodically, and so if it takes, a year, 2 years, 10 years even for an article to receive a DOI from its publisher, those unstructured citations are still going to be sitting in our system and are going to be checked every so often until such time as a DOI has been assigned. So just because an article doesn't immediately have a DOI doesn't mean it's not accruing those citations. There's just no way to view those citations until that DOI has been assigned. Oh, we have a question from Elena here. I see in participation reports the preprints category. Is it possible to register the DOI of a just accepted article from OJS in this category? Uh, so our recommendation regarding versions is that anything from the point of acceptance through the final paginated version and anything in between, so like an author's accepted manuscript, online before publication, anything in there is assigned the same DOI. So that's not considered a preprint. For our purposes, a preprint is considered a separate citable object, and so would have its own DOI. I'm not sure about preprints via OJS. I'm not sure whether OJS can support um, specifically registering preprints as a content type, which have a distinct schema type from the journal article schema type. Paul, I don't know if you have any other knowledge about this.
I don't think we do at the moment. I don't think we accept preprints through
Yeah,
OJS.
so you can anything that's presented through OJS would be considered a journal article, even if it doesn't, if it didn't, even if it isn't in its final typeset form yet, and even if it isn't in its final paginated form yet. And throughout that portion, from the point of uh, acceptance through final pagination, there should only ever be a single DOI for that article. But then, of course, as you maybe assign the article to a specific volume and issue, and as you may assign page numbers or an article number, you can always go in and resubmit the metadata for that DOI to include those page numbers and that volume and issue number. That's one of the many beautiful things about the DOI is that the metadata is sort of infinitely updatable as needed, while the DOI stays the same. Okay, sorry, I've skipped a few questions from the past few minutes here. Let me go up and Um, there's a question from Elena here. How does the plugin handle multilingual data, title, abstract? From some quick tests, it seems to me that it sends only one language and without specifying which language it is. Paul, I'm not sure about this. I do think it may be true that it can only send a title in one language, but I am a bit surprised if it doesn't indicate which language that's in.
Yeah. I, there's there's an attribute that can be attached to the title and to the abstract. I'd be surprised if it wasn't able to be selected in
Yeah, this is something
OJS.
that Crossref's metadata schema can handle. The question is that coming through from OJS 3.3 to Crossref? And I feel like we're both drawing blanks on this. So that's a good one to take to the PKP forum, Elena.
Do you want me to have a go at the question from Jasmine?
About Crossmark? Yes, I would.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at Crossmark. I'm so sorry.
No, it's quite all right. Crossmark is not an add-on to your Crossref membership. It's something that you have access to already. What it means is you have to add some extra metadata into um, the, the the deposit that you're giving to us. Now, Colin, I think it is available in OJS to send to us. There's so many things that I'm not sure about. Just going to have a quick check.
Oh, sorry. I was muted for that. I watched the previous one of these OJS Metadata Health Check webinars that our colleague Amanda French and Mike Nason from PKP did, and I'm trying for the life of me to remember what the answer to this question was. If I recall correctly, Mike from PKP said that um, Crossmark is not a built-in feature for OJS,
Yeah,
but that there are some plugins that can support it.
yeah,
I should say too that this whole webinar is being recorded, and we will send it out afterwards. And I will we'll also be able to you'll also be able to take a look back at past webinars. But that is a question that might be more quickly and easily answered again at the PKP forum. I'm sure that's something that other folks have been interested in as well.
yeah. It looks like checking on the documentation. It's saying that you probably need to do that directly with this Crossref rather than through OJS. I'll post it, but that was 3.2. I'll post a link in, and also one to our documentation about it into the chat.
Patricia asks a good question here. We're ingesting an existing journal. Any guidance on how best to handle new DOIs, maintain previous DOIs with a different prefix? Yeah, so this is super important. If you've had a journal transferred from another publisher, another member over to you, it's super important that you maintain any of the existing DOIs, even if those DOIs are on a different prefix. With a title transfer, you are going to take ownership, stewardship, management of those existing DOIs from the old member, even if those DOIs are on a different prefix. And so when we do one of these title transfers, we'll send you the link to the full list of all the existing DOIs. And it's important before you go through, and it's important not to automatically assign DOIs to all articles in the journal without first going through and making sure that you've matched the existing DOIs registered by the previous member um, first, so that you're not creating duplicate DOIs for any articles that already have DOIs assigned. And then you can use this process that I talked about earlier, where you resubmit the metadata for any DOI to us. Um, just do the bulk action, deposit DOIs, uh, and what will happen there is that metadata for those articles and those previously registered DOIs will get sent to Crossref, and that'll update the landing page URLs. So instead of those DOIs sending readers to the old publisher's domain, they'll instead send readers to the corresponding landing pages on your own OJS website. The list that we send you when we complete a title transfer just includes the list of the DOIs themselves. We can also optionally send you a list of additional metadata from those DOIs. So if that's something you need, just get in touch with us, with my team. We can be reached at member@crossref.org. So if you want to see, for example, the title or the authors or the date on any of those existing DOIs. And if those are integrated correctly into your system, you'll be able to just update the metadata for those existing DOIs using your existing credentials. If something is broken, or maybe if a previous publisher assigned a DOI to an article but never actually registered it, you may get an error then, and we'll need to do a little bit more work to help you get those unregistered DOIs registered. We have an internal process that we can help with for that. In any case, if you're ever corresponding with us about any of these questions, always useful to make sure you send us the submission ID that you get when you submit a metadata deposit, as this is going to help us most quickly locate your submission and diagnose the issue for you. Okay, what else do we have? Erica writes, when we register DOIs via OJS, the citations go into Crossref's database, but when we download the XMLs, the citations are not included. Is this normal? We would like to use the citations in our own database. The database isn't able to use the Crossref API query. and Erica's on OJS 3.5. Yeah, that's surprising. That's not the behavior I would expect, right, Paul?
Um, it depends. I don't know how they send the citations to us. They might be sent via resource only deposit. If you could we could have a look at a DOI quickly if there's one there, but otherwise this is again might need further investigation.
Yeah, so Erica, if you want to pop any irrelevant and affected DOI that's having this problem into the reply to your chat there, Paul and
Yeah,
I can take a look.
we could then have a look, see if the deposit history to see what we have against that DOI, and then whether it was sent via a separate XML file and that OJS sends it via resource only deposit.
Yeah, that does happen. Where the most of the metadata will come in the first deposit, and then the reference metadata is deposited separately later. And it's maybe possible that there was an error with only the reference metadata that was causing it not to deposit correctly. While we're waiting to look at a DOI there, we can maybe jump down to Mark's next question. Does Crossref filter peer-reviewed articles from other types of OJS content, i.e. reviews in OJS 3.3? I don't believe so. I believe these are all just submitted via the journal article content type. So they're all coming in to us within this Crossref journal article schema, which doesn't per se differentiate between an editorial or a peer-reviewed article or a book review. Do any of the OJS plugins, Matthew asks, the Roar plugin, the ORCID plugin, provide API endpoints, or must everything be entered manually in the GUI? That is a super question. Any clue, Paul?
I would say it probably going to be entered in manually, but that's more of an OJS question. So the PKP forum would be a good place for that because it's a technical question from then, and it would just be sent manually in each full XML deposit to us. So it's probably going to be manually entered, but PKP will be able to confirm or deny that.
Cool. Okay, we have just a few minutes left here. Are there any lingering questions from anyone? I see that most of you have stuck around for the entire session here, which we really appreciate. We do hope that we have answered your questions. Obviously, there's some things we have not been able to answer, but we hope we've then provided additional resources that were useful to you as you go about adding this additional metadata. Yeah, thanks, Patricia. Many lingering questions, but good to explore and experiment first. So in that case, we can wrap up here. Again, just feel free to take a quick glance at the resources on the screen if you haven't gotten any of these links yet. We will follow up sometime in the next couple of days once we have downloaded and re-uploaded this presentation. It'll all be available. It'll be hosted on Zenodo. If you want to take a quick read or review anything that we chatted about here, or access any of the links, we'll also post the slideshow, the slide deck there as well. If you want to take a closer look at anything there as well. We really appreciate you all being here so much. Crossref works because you all are committed to it working, to submitting your rich metadata to us, and building this research nexus, this scholarly ecosystem together. So as much as we're here for you, we also appreciate you being here for us and for one another as well. Um, so thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this afternoon, perhaps morning, perhaps deep into the night, depending on where you are in the world. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.